This is the part 4 for the series of lecture for chapter 9, valuing bonds with embedded options. Let's consider valuing and analyzing a callable bond. When we talk about callable bond, the valuation process proceeds in the same fashion as in the case of option-free bond, with only one exception, and that exception is when call option may be exercised by the issuer, the bond value at the node must be changed to reflect the lesser of its value if it's not called, i.e., the value obtained by applying the backward induction method described above and the call price. As explained earlier, at a node, either a random event or decision must be made. In constructing a binomial interest rate tree, there is a random event at a node. When valuing bond with an embedded option at the node, there will be a decision. And that decision we are talking about is made as to whether or not an option will be exercised. In the case of a callable bond, the issuer must decide whether or not to exercise the call option. Okay, now let's consider this binomial interest rate tree. In this binomial interest rate tree, you can see that what we did is we are considering again a 6.5% bond with a 4-year remaining to maturity that is callable bond now, and a face value of 100, and it is callable also at 100. And this graph shows two values, if you can see, at each node for the binomial interest rate tree. The discounting process explained above is used to calculate the first of the two values at each node. So this first of the each value is used, calculated by present value of this plus present value of this divided by 2, right? So the first value at each node represents the same thing. The second value is the value based on whether the issue will be called. For simplicity, let's assume that the issuer can call if the calls the issue if it exceeds the call price. So if this price is more than the call price, then the issuer can call the bond. Let's focus on the first the portion of this where the upper portion where the bond cannot be called. So this upper portion, this here, the bond cannot be called. Why the bond cannot be called here is because the price here is below the call price, which is 100. So it cannot be, the bond cannot be called. So let's discuss it in this way. Let's take year 3 as our example, that how these calculations are made. Okay, let's take this year 3 at node NHLL. So at node NHLL, the backward induction method produces a value of 100.315. However, giving the simplified car rule, this issue would be called. Therefore, 100 is shown as the second value at the node, and it is this value that is then used in the backward induction methodology. So, when you see this, so for example, when we calculated this 100.27, instead of considering 100.315, we considered 100 as a value because this issue would be called here, right? So it's the backward induction methodology, same way, only we use the call value in our backward induction when the price is above the call price. right? Okay, the root of the tree in this exhibit shows this bounce value is 100. Actually, we can ascertain these values. We can do these actual calculations and can confirm this value is 102.899. Now, the question that we have not addressed until now is that under which circumstances issuer will actually call the bond. Uh, we are not going into the detail of this, but the basic logic is it involves determining when it would be economical for the issuer on an after tax basis to call the bond, as opposed to uh, the continue with the same bond. Okay. Uh, Again, this callable bond is let me go here again. Okay. So here, instead of assuming a single constant call price, here we assume that the first year bond can be called at 102, in the second year 101, and in third year at 100. So now the rules will be same, only we will replace the call price if the value exceeds the respective the call price schedule. So here it's above 100, so we put price, and this price will be used to compute value, this value here. So this is below 100. So now this is above 100, and we will put 100 call price here, and this 100 is now used to calculate this 100.270 value here. Similarly, this value is below 100, so we put the same value, but this value is above 101. That's second year call price is 101, so we put 101 similarly here. And now if the call schedule is in such a way, now the price is 103.942. So this is how we typically or simply value a call a bond with embedded call option. And if we want to calculate the value of the call option, what we need to do is just consider the value in option free bond and deduct the value of a callable bond. Remember, when we calculated the value of an option free bond, that value came out to be 100, and if I am remember it correctly, the value came out was 104.643, and now we got 102.899. So the difference of 1.744 is the value of the call option. So the value of call option here is 1.744. Now let's move to the volatility and the arbitrage free value. The higher the expected volatility, the higher the value of an option. So if we increase the volatility, we assume the volatility of 10%. If we increase the volatility from 10% to, let's say, to 20%, then the value of option will increase. And when this value of option will increase, it means the value of the embedded bond decreases, right? The same is true for an option embedded in a bond. The effects of value of bond within option. For a callable bond, the higher interest rate volatility assumption means that the value of the call option increase, and since the value of option free bond is not affected, the value of the callable bond must be lower, and it's the same for the reverse. Now let's talk about the option adjusted spread. The remember we talked about option adjusted spread. Suppose the market price for the bond we are talking about is 102.218, the callable bond, 6.5% 4-year callable bond. And the theoretical value we calculated assuming 10% volatility is 102.899. This means that this bond is cheap by 0.681 according to the valuation model. Bond market participants prefer to think not in terms of bond prices being cheap or expensive, but they think of the bond prices rather in terms of yield spread. A cheap bond trades at a higher yield spread and an expensive bond at a lower yield spread. So the option adjusted spread will be the constant spread that when added to a 1-year rates on the minimal interest rate tree we have just considered, they'll make the arbitrage free value equal to the market price. So what will be that spread if we add to our binomial tree, and we will get the value of 102.218 instead of 102.899. So if we do this, and we can get a value of 0.35. So if 35 basis points are added, we will get a price equal to market value. As with the value of bond with embedded option, the value of OAS will depend on volatility assumption. For a given bond price, the higher the interest rate volatility assumed, the lower the OAS for a callable bond. The Mayer is called OAS because it is in spread and adjusted cash flows for the option when computing spread for the benchmark interest rates. Okay. Now again, let's talk about another important aspect of valuation, which is the effective duration and effective convexity. Remember, when we talked about duration and convexity in chapter number 7, we said that the effective duration is the approximate, the duration is basically the approximate percentage change in the value of security for 100 basis point change in interest rate, and convexity may adjust this this duration measure. What we define as effective duration convexity is that they also take into consideration how changes in interest rates in the future may alter cash flow due to exercise of an option. So the effective duration and convexity require model for valuing bonds with embedded options. The formula for calculating the duration and convexity will remain same as we discussed in chapter number 7. I think it's not necessary to repeat those formulas here. I'm sure all of you are aware. What will be the process for calculating the V positive and V negative values in that calculation we do for calculation of duration and convexity? So these are the steps we are going to follow. Given the market price of the issue, calculate its OAS using procedure described earlier. The procedure we just described, we have to first calculate OAS. Shift the on the run yield curve up by small number of basis points. So we have to shift the curve by a small number of basis points up, and then construct a binomial interest rate tree based on the new yield curve in step 2. To each of the 1-year rates in the binomial interest rate tree, we have to add OAS to obtain an adjusted tree. That is the calculation of the effective duration and convexity. Assume that the OAS will not change when interest rate changes. So this is the assumption. Then we will use the adjusted tree found in step 4 to determine the positive value. Same steps will be implied to determine the negative value. And when we get these, both of these positive and negative values, let me show you the formula again of the duration and convexity to be clear what we are talking about. Okay, so after obtaining those positive and negative values, we will put those values here and obtain the duration measure and convexity measure, which then can be used to estimate the price change in price is a result of change in interest rate for option embedded callable bonds. Thank you.